Hey, aloha everyone. Michelle Melendez with Blossom Inner Wellness and StandTogetherHawaii.com. I'm here with Bruce Douglas. Bruce is on Maui. We just had a major storm here in on the Hawaii Islands, and it was very interesting. Governor suspended he did two emergency proclamations, suspended 42 laws prior to the weather, and we'll talk about that toward the end. But I'm super excited about having Bruce on because he's going to go over the the weather and show you guys some satellite images that are going to blow your mind. He sent me some videos and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. So Bruce, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So let's talk about the weather here on the Big Island, on the not the Big Island, but on the Hawaii Islands. It's not often that we have the Kona low where the wind comes in from the Kona side, but we do get it. Can you talk a little bit about first the normal weather of the Hawaiian Islands, and then we're going to talk about what just happened?
Well, a normal weather pattern is trade winds, and true, we do have sometimes a Kona wind. Kona means south, so it comes from the south. So normally our trade winds come from the northwest, from the northeast toward us. And uh, so normally the wet side of the island, the jungle side, gets the rain, the North Shore on the trade winds, and the Kihei side is dry. And only in a Kona storm, then the Kihei side suddenly gets it, the south side, and the normally wet side doesn't. However, that's how it used to be 30 years ago when I first moved to Hawaii. But now we get these island-wide rains where the cloud covers across the whole island and the stratosphere where there shouldn't be clouds.
Hmm.
And since the weather engineering has picked up, we have a whole new phenomena. We also see lightning storms. We never used to have lightning in Hawaii when I moved here 30 years ago. Like if a lightning one clap happened, people would talk about it for a week. And now we have these continuous lightning storms of blue lightning instead of white lightning, blue color, which
Hmm.
is the sign of aluminum burning.
Yeah, yeah, I saw some lightning last night as well. Now you're in Bruce is on Maui Island and
Hmm?
I'm on the Big Island, the Hawaii Island. We're 60 miles away from each other. And the wet side is on the other side of me. So I'm on the Kona side right now. But we had, I mean, the rain was it was we had flooding. We luckily my neighbor had her electricity out. I'm off the grid, so I'm on solar. But let's talk about you want to do a PowerPoint presentation, and you also have some things videos that you want to share from the satellite images. So go ahead.
All right. So I'm going to share, I guess I'll go jump right in and share the screen so you can see what it is I'm looking at here. And let's see if I can pull up my PowerPoint and put it into that mode. So, the big question was the Hawaii Kona storm of March natural or engineered? So I'm going to present the information. In the end, I'm going to let you guys decide what you think. And people talk about cloud seeding. That's where you take existing clouds and you add some mineral in it in order to nucleate it and cause an existing cloud to rain. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about cloud generation, actually generating the clouds. So we will start with how it looks. So this is an infrared satellite image. And you can see is my cursor showing up there? Should you see
Uh,
Hawaii down
I
here?
can. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So here's Hawaii down here in there. And the normal trade wind, tropospheric, low-level natural clouds are this gray stuff over here when you look at. And you will see in these clouds kind of appear out of nowhere just to the south of Hawaii and go up here and travel in the stratospheric wind direction. Stratosphere is up where planes fly. It's like
Hmm.
30,000 feet up, where there shouldn't be clouds. Natural clouds don't appear in the stratosphere because there's no moisture in there. The only way to create a cloud in the stratosphere is to generate it down the troposphere. There is moisture and have it rise up into the stratosphere. And these clouds are following the stratospheric wind direction. So I'm just going to run it here so you can kind of see. This is the beginning of the storm down here just south of Hawaii. You
Hmm.
see these, sudden, very dense clouds appeared out of nowhere just suddenly, and they look like a point source, like a chimney going off. and then rising in the stratosphere and go in the stratospheric wind direction. And you see them coming one after another. This is basically what was generating our storms down here. Here's a big blast down there. And I've sped this up so it's going pretty fast as far as timeline. You can see the timeline in the upper left-hand corner.
Oh yeah.
You know,
So like because what's interesting about this is that it's just appearing in these spots. It should
right,
be yeah, it should be coming from someplace, but it looks like it's just showing up.
right, appearing. So I'm going to
Yeah, appearing.
kind of show you here um, two levels. This is at 2,500 feet. So this is down in the troposphere. And you'll see the wind pattern, the troposphere, right, going in this circular pattern like this around the Kona low. In the lower atmosphere, it circles back around like that. And there's Hawaii down there,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's what's happening in the lower atmosphere. So I want you to look, if we go over here and we click it off and we choose 30,000 feet, which is up in the stratosphere, you'll see these high-speed stratospheric winds traveling, making a dip like that and going toward the mainland. And that's the stratospheric wind, right? Where the unnatural clouds are appearing.
Mm-hmm.
And so looking again, you'll see, looks at that same loop of what we're looking at. You'll see these clouds are going in the pattern of the stratospheric wind direction, going up, and instead of spiraling back around again, they cruise over to the mainland following the stratospheric wind direction. So here's the stratospheric winds dipping like that. So you get the idea of,
Yeah.
what we're looking at, whereas here's the lower ones making a slower circle down below. You can see how slow they're going in comparison to the stratosphere. Very different speed. So here you see big clouds happening. There's the one last night that clobbered Big Island, and that's how it looks right now. It's pretty much petered out. And what I'm postulating is there are boats out there that are cloud cloud generation boats that are creating these clouds by blowing off aerosols that nucleate the moisture, form, they're full of aluminum, barium, strontium, nickel, cadmium, and zinc, a bunch of earth minerals, nucleate the moisture down here in the troposphere. There is moisture. It rises in the stratosphere, and then it falls and rains down upon us, which is the big storm you have. And when I see these things very close to the islands happening, when they're blowing these off close to the islands, that's when I see the most severe weather happen, when they're close in effects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what I'm just noticing, it's not coming from, like I just said, it's just appearing right next to the islands.
Right. It's just appearing out of nothing. And you can almost see a V pattern where like a chimney going off in the ocean, and then it hits a high-speed stratospheric winds and then takes off. And then, you know, there's a big blast right there that's causing major storms. And it's very close in. We're only talking a few hundred miles offshore,
So you're talking
when they
about
do that.
the green and the red
The
when you
green and the
just
red, because this is infrared. So infrared sees heat or reflectivity, right?
hmm
And so I'm going to show you kind
Yeah.
of what I'm talking about with cloud generation. Here's a video that's been kicking around TikTok and Facebook for many years ago. It's an old school cloud generator device, right?
Yeah.
And you see it generating a cloud, nucleating the moisture down below, it rising up, goes straight up right there, eventually hits the high-speed stratospheric winds and takes off. And this newspaper reporter gets really excited because
Yep.
he suddenly realized, wow, it's raining. It's creating rain. So that's the old school. This has been around. This photo, this little generator was like early days back in the 80s. And
hmm
that's why this got popular. They got smaller ones you can mount on the back of a truck like this. And you see a little point source going out. After a while, here's one mounted on a tank to confuse the enemies, another cloud generating device. You can buy these from military contractors. See how quickly it creates a massive cloud like that, just shooting it out. So you get an idea that this technology exists. And are we using it to create clouds? Well, appears to. You'll see it there. They're blowing
Yeah.
against the wind. It rises up, and doesn't take long at all before it's creating a massive cloud. And that's just one mount on the back of a truck. It's a small one, right? A mini
Hmm.
one. Imagine a big one mounted onto a ship and what that could do. But you see that pattern of it, rising from a point source and creating that cloud. So here's, one's mounted to a ship doing the same sort of thing, you know, cloud generator devices. And there's been videos of it coming from uh, power plants where it's more than just the normal, you know, power plants have scrubbers on them to get most of the nasty stuff out. So there's not a huge amount of clouds generated from power plants. But power plants have been seen, and there's a power plant there making these huge plumes going up into the sky, rising up all the way into the stratosphere. And you can see them. The left side is the satellite image of how that looks from the sky and how it looks down below from a point source, right? So here's another satellite image, that same thing, that power
Hmm.
plant shooting off aerosols from that. And you can see the cloud generation, how that looks from an
Because
infrared satellite image.
it's just coming from that area. It's not coming from the regular
Right.
stratosphere from some place. It's just being created right there. And that what I love about this is that you have other videos that show storms just being created, not just in Hawaii, you guys, but also Texas and other places.
All sorts of places. Yeah. So I'm just focusing on that one just to kind of give you an idea. Do we have the technology to do this? Yes. Was it used in this particular storm? Appears to be. I can't say for sure without flying out there and finding the boats, but when you look at it from this and from, clouds generated in the stratosphere out of thin air, like you're seeing right here from this power plant,
Mhm.
same sort of thing. So what is it that they're using? And a researcher named J. Michael Herndon, Marvin Herndon, did a beautiful thing. It was actually peer reviewed before it got redacted, but he postulated it was coal fly ash that you're using to create it, which makes a lot of sense when you have a volcanic eruption, right? I mean, that's when you get clouds in the stratosphere. A volcano sequesters the moisture, all the nano minerals get made into nano ionic particles, and they sequester the moisture down below, and then they rise up in a plume that goes way up and hits the stratosphere and takes off in a massive, major volcanic eruption. Coal fly ash does the same thing. You're taking earth minerals, and they make them nano in size, and um, and so what this researcher determined is he looked at when on a spray day, when you collect a HEPA filter and you collect the stuff, and then you look at the values and you compare that to coal fly ash, the waste product of the coal industry, you get the same blueprint of minerals, aluminum, barium, strontium, nickel, cadmium, zinc, on it goes. It's the same fingerprint as the two of them. The ratios are the same. And then he also took the leachate from coal fly ash and the rainwater coming down, right? So you take coal fly ash, you distill it, and you distill it with distilled water, see what leaches out, and you take the rainwater, and you get the same pattern of what's raining down on us. Um, on the is come you find in the rainwater. Aluminum, barium, strontium being, cadmium being the telltale signs that research has been looking for years. So it appears to be coal fly ash, and it's a waste product from the coal industry. So when you burn coal at extremely high temperatures, it makes the minerals nano in size and they become ionic. They're charged particles. And then we use electrostatic precipitators in the stacks, scrubbers that then use electricity and the ionic charge and pull the most toxic elements, these minerals out. And what it appears to be is they're using it in these programs, the very waste product that they figure, now what do we do with this waste product? Oh, well, we'll just use it in our weather engineering programs. That's what it appears to be. Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
We have
disturbing.
these boats. This
Mhm.
bunch of them from Turkey. Other countries have them. They're out there in the ocean. I saw a video of one of these things out. in the Straits of Hormuz with all of our boats out there to create weather engineering. These massive amounts, they try to say they're power ships. It's a lot of these things, and after a disaster, they come in and they create power for places, but no one's actually ever seen them in use in that format. These, in my book, are weather generating stations. And you see them, I mean, they're massive ships capable of a big payload of coal fly ash. They're burning coal and supposedly to create power. Um, but I don't believe that's what these ships are for. And they've been seen around places like Spain when the big thing happened there. People saw these ships out there coming back and cruising down the Mediterranean. Um, and they're trying to disguise them as power ships. These are a bunch of them right off their
Wow.
website. They're advertising this stuff.
So, oh, go ahead.
So, uh, you know, we get clouds in the stratosphere by volcanic eruptions.
Hmm.
There shouldn't be clouds in the stratosphere. They're trying to say, geoengineers are trying to say, oh, we want to like cool the planet by putting, sulfur in the stratosphere, um, reflecting light away and cooling the planet, like chemotherapy for weather modification for global warming. Of course, that was based on the global warming model, which didn't actually pan out because we got warmer and then we got cooler, just like natural cycles. So now they call it climate change instead of global warming, but this
They keep
geoengineering
having
is
to change
still
the
based on
narrative.
it. Yeah, I got to change the narrative after we bust them and say, actually, we're not warming.
Mm,
The math
yeah.
don't add up. So they're trying to find ways of putting something in the stratosphere. And these are the geoengineers who are the fake scientists trying to act like, oh, sometime in the future we want to do this program, and trying to make it natural that we need this for to deal with climate change.
Yeah, and it's so funny because when I was growing up, the world was cooling. Then now it's warming. Now it's climate change.
Right.
And so they
Yeah,
keep
well,
they keep changing the narrative.
it didn't work. The
Yeah,
global warming narrative didn't add up. It's the poles are melting, so it must be getting warmer, but that's actually not what's happening.
that's right.
So stratospheric aerosols to cool the planet. They're reflecting. So we have a stratospheric haze in the planet now that we didn't used to have 30 years ago. That's increasing every year. That's reflecting a certain amount of light that should be hitting this planet. Certain wavelengths of white light are being done away by these programs right now in the stratospheric haze around the planet. So, the um, again, the natural clouds you see are down here in the troposphere down low, and these stringy, gooey, cotton candy looking clouds up there are the stratospheric clouds. They try to saw, high altitude cirrus cloud. But uh, that kind of shows you a map of how that looks. Of course, you all know about HAARP antennas. I'm sure the people with your program have been well versed on that. This is old school technology. This is like the 70s, 80s technology, which is now rather obsolete. They still use it occasionally. But this is the big array up in Alaska, and this ionospheric heater interacts with ions. Ionosphere is where the ozone layer is, which is an ionic particle, right? So they take radio waves and aim it at a certain place in the ionosphere, and they can heat it up and create a low pressure cell right below it. Hint, hint, hint. A Kona low
Hmm.
parked in one place for a week, with everything going around it. If you actually watch that Kona low, everything moves around it, but the Kona low stays in one place. This is a technology that can do it. They aim all that energy at one spot in the ionosphere. It heats up the molecules. It rises up like that and creates a low pressure cell down below. And they can rise it up and then turn it off and create a drum beat down below and create all sorts of interesting patterns by doing it. But now it's not just HAARP in Alaska, but there's these mini HAARPs all across the world. Even this one that comes into Honolulu Harbor,
Hmm.
massive device, high up off the water. They spent $1 billion building this thing, and everyone calls it the HAARP Dome. You'll see it in the Honolulu Harbor, and that's a mini harbor. And now there are these domes. This is not NextRad. This is HAARP technology, ionospheric heater technology, and HAARP-like heaters. And since these aerosols that are blown off are ionic particles. You can interact with the ions in it and you can start moving, playing with it around. You can start spinning it and making vortices and spins because, by interacting radio waves with ions, you can move it around. Normally, there's no ions in the stratosphere unless you blow up aerosols and then you have ions. That's a picture I took just driving down the
Mhm.
highway, and there's the HAARP dome right there in Honolulu Harbor coming in for servicing.
Yep.
Then it goes out. And by that, you can take these aerosols in the stratosphere and start spinning it and create what I call a stratospheric hurricane, which I see. Some of our hurricanes, you'll show in other videos, you see them spinning up there like this, and the normal clouds are going right underneath them like this, while this thing is spinning in the stratosphere, looking like a horrible hurricane. But the normal clouds are just like cruising right underneath them like this, while this thing's spinning up and coming out the other side. You know, it's a stratospheric hurricane, engineered hurricane. Or that's what I see. And a lot of people think what we're doing is chemtrails, right? Because that's what
Hmm.
we're all told. But from my point of view, chemtrails is misinformation purposely put out there to have us think it's coming from the planes, which is illogical and irrational, unscientific, rather than from other sources. And if you look carefully, you always see when you see a chemtrail, so-called chemtrail, you always see an aerosol cloud in the background, like here. When the aerosol cloud goes away, the chemtrail goes away. Basically, what's happening is some moisture of combustion coming out of the back of the plane condenses in the nanoparticles that are already there in the stratosphere and create what I'm calling an aerosol trail. Like these are the aerosol clouds. I'm flying in a plane here. That's the wing of the plane. And these clouds are higher than the planes fly in the stratosphere. Planes fly at what, 36,000 feet
Hmm.
approximately?
Yeah.
And these are up at, 40 to 45, 35 to 45,000 feet. And you see them, especially out here in the ocean where they're freshly generated, they look like these stringy, gooey, cotton candy looking clouds instead of these puffy ones. And when you get below, you realize that these are, you know, yeah, you fly up, it's obvious what the cloud layers are. A little hard to tell from underneath sometimes.
Hmm.
These are actually the stratospheric clouds are moving at high speed, and these tropospheric clouds are moving at low speed, right? When you look at the satellite images, you'll see these clouds down here moving at low speed and the stratospheric clouds moving at high speed. It's all an appearance because these clouds are like, 3 to 5,000 feet down here, and
Hmm.
these are at 35 to 40,000 feet up here. So if you're flying a plane and you see clouds higher than the plane flies in the stratosphere, by definition, those have to be artificial clouds because the stratosphere doesn't make clouds. Now, when I was a kid and I would fly around before 30 years ago, I never saw clouds in the stratosphere. I was always looking down at clouds, not up at clouds.
I didn't think about that. I didn't think about that. I do have a question for you though, because
Uh-huh.
I was in when I was in Carson City, it was a blue sky, no clouds around, and I did see planes flying and there were these trails behind them. So you're
Hmm.
saying that's not coming from the plane. You're saying that even though it's a totally blue sky and there wasn't a cloud in the sky and these planes were, I couldn't believe the amount of
Well, I'll
lines
tell
I
you what's
saw up
happening.
there.
I'll tell you what's actually
Okay, good.
happening. The clouds are generated out in the ocean, right? The big stuff from the ships. There are also land bases, but the biggest stuff is in the ocean where no one's looking. And they drift over the planet. The very first part of it is like a haze, the stratospheric haze it hits, right? You don't see them as puffy clouds yet. You don't see all the moisture. It's more of a haze. And then suddenly you start seeing chemtrails. You think it's a clear day, but it's actually a hazy day up there in the stratosphere. And the planes are flying through it, creating aerosol trails. And yeah, planes fly in north, south, and east, west things. They look like a checkerboard because there's flight patterns. And a plane will never fly through somebody else's aerosol clouds. They'll always go a little bit over if there's one. They're not going to fly through right through. They're going to go over a little bit. They're going to go over a little bit. They're going to change their flight. So they're not going in somebody else's persistent contrail, as they call it. Um, and then the big clouds arrive, and you start thinking, oh my God, those chemtrails created those clouds. No, a chemtrail plane could only have a teeny weeny little payload in it, right? Not enough to create these massive clouds you're seeing up there. And then people think, oh, they're adding something to the jet fuel because now we have flight trackers, right? With the phones, we can look and we can see, oh, that's United Airlines flight going from Chicago to Memphis, right? Creating a chemtrail. Well, you can't add anything to a jet fuel. That stuff's so highly purified, you can't have one drop of impurity. I actually went to two different jet formulators at LAX, and I went to the back room and I talked to the boys in the back room and said, could there be any people say they're adding stuff to create? No, not a chance. Everything that goes through is being tested as you're fueling it to make sure there's not one drop of impurity in that. You can't add something to jet fuel and create that.
So I would
But
love to see the images of like the one of Texas or the one on Hawaii that literally had, oh, I think we just saw that one where it just blew up and it when it was going against the wind. But the one on
uh-huh.
Texas is the one also that really blew my mind, the one that you sent
Yeah,
me.
that's pretty amazing. And if we have time, I can pull those up. This is what it looks like right here. Okay, what I'm
It's
seeing,
actually
because when I fly, I'm looking at the satellite images, and I fly fairly often, and I'm looking at satellite images, and I know when we're going to go past an aerosol cloud. So here what you're seeing is a cloud generated. At first, it goes with the tropospheric wind direction, and then it rises up high enough. It hits the stratosphere and goes in the stratospheric wind direction and goes all this way. So you see how at first, here's the puffer right here. It goes to the right side of the wind, and then suddenly the wind picks it as it gets higher and it goes the opposite direction. Okay, let's look at this. As you're flying, you see it going there, and you'll see it creating this cloud higher than the plane flies in the stratosphere. This
hmm
is what I'm saying, a point source out in the ocean creating an aerosol cloud out of thin air with nothing else around it. This is what I see, these plumes rising up, often hidden in the cloud layer down below, but, rising up into the stratosphere and creating these massive stratospheric clouds from one point source. And I got, hundreds of pictures of these things happening.
So I actually have the links that you sent me. I'm gonna send them to my email and I'm gonna be able to open these up as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, because that is insane. And that one right there, well, not only did you show the fact that they can make clouds right now. I mean, they have been doing that for a very, very long time. But that one right there, that one right there actually proved it. That was a really good one.
right. That's a good one. And I've got a bunch of those from different places where I see the plumes rising up and from point sources out in the ocean. And so here again, um, I'm going to show this again now that we had a little education. I'm going to show this a second time, this loop, and go through the whole piece. And you're going to watch it. Again, it's sped up in time. I moved it faster so you don't get bored watching in, slow time. And you'll see the clouds generated, here's Hawaiian Islands, generated out of nothing. There's no other clouds around it. There's no tropospheric clouds. Here's a big cloud bank up here to the northeast of Hawaii. That cloud bank right there, you could think, okay, that could generate a cloud because that's a bank of tropospheric clouds. But
hmm
down here in the south, there is no tropospheric clouds. There's no thunderheads down there rising up doing anything. And a thunderhead's going to stay connected to the cloud below it. It's going to rise up, but it's going to stay. These are hitting the high-speed stratospheric winds and traveling, and they're close, and they blow these off close to the islands.
hmm
That's when I
They have
see
to.
the biggest effect. That's when they create winds and crazy stuff. And there's not to say that the HAARP antennas aren't also playing with it and creating gust of winds going different directions. Or if they're playing electricity in it to suddenly like make it drop moisture quickly. There's patents for that type of stuff.
hmm
I can't see that with infrared satellite. I can't see the electrical stuff. I can only infer it.
hmm
But from the infrared that again sees heat or reflectivity. In this case, these are highly reflective because they got nanoparticles of aluminum, barium, strontium, nickel, cadmium, zinc in them. And they're highly reflective, so they dominate the screen. So let's just run it through again here. And you can see the point source generated there off the islands.
It's just coming right there. Like there's no reason for it to be coming right there.
No coming. There's nothing below it. There's nothing generated. There's no thunderheads there. It's just
Just showing
suddenly
up.
showing up. you know. And sometimes you can see a V pattern coming off where it's really obvious what's happening, right? There's some big blasts right there. That's the stuff that was creating all that stuff yesterday that was flooding everybody out. Close in, right offshore, boom, a cloud appears offshore. And where's that going? It's going toward there, big puff. That was an obvious one right
That was,
there.
oh my gosh, that's my island right there, you guys. Can you put your cursor right where where the red is showing? Because
Right
yeah,
here. That's Big
that's
Island.
that's my island, and that red. I mean, we had a crazy ass storm last night. Was that it right there?
That's
Can
your
you
storm right there.
go back a little bit, and then you guys watch Big Island. Show them where Big Island is again,
Okay,
because
Big
it's so.
Island's right here, that little
Uh-huh.
thing here.
Go ahead.
Okay. And now I'm going to let it run. Whoops. I'm going
And
to
you
let it
guys
rip.
watch it just shows up. It's not coming from any place.
Right. I'm going to start this again. Right. So here we go.
It just
Boom,
shows up right there. Boom.
boom, boom, right there. I stopped it. You can see a little point source right there, like a
Mm-hmm.
chimney going off as a V. When you
Mm-hmm.
know what you're looking for, it's really obvious. Really
Mm-hmm.
obvious. Once you know, trained, and you understand what you're seeing there, that's the big storm that hit you last night that wiped you out. 100, 100 miles, 50, 100 miles offshore, not very far offshore.
Yeah, Ali'i Drive was
Boom.
closed. We had a roof and Kona blow off. Um, we were out of power. My neighbor was out of power, not me because I'm on solar, but she was out of power
Uh-huh.
and flooding.
And there it is, all blacked out. And the black, the red, you can see it goes from blue to green to yellow to red to black is super intense. You should only see black in the center of a hurricane. That's
Mm-hmm.
like super dense. That's when you really, that's like right where it's being blown off. When you do it right off a shore, that intense, that's going to create crazy winds, crazy stuff.
Wow. That's amazing. So if you don't have, I want to show people the patents, the weather modification patents that we have. Do you want to do a
Hmm.
quick,
Yeah. Again, I just want to say the chemtrails, you know, where there's a cloud, aerosol cloud in the background, you have an aerosol trail, chemtrail. Where there is no cloud, you don't get it. Same thing here. There's an aerosol cloud in the background. There's a supposed chemtrail. It peters out where there's no more aerosols. There's some more aerosols. It starts to pick up a little bit. They're not turning the formula on and off. As they go through different layers of aerosol clouds, it creates an aerosol or doesn't create one. It's nucleating. The moisture of combustion is condensing on the nanoparticles that are already there from the aerosol clouds shot out from boats and condensing on that moisture. I've been looking for 20 years now since I've been studying this for a real chemtrail where there's no aerosol clouds in the background. You see over here, it's just sort of a haze. It's not really a cloud, but it's creating some chemtrails. See?
mhm.
Over there, it's a serious aerosol cloud, but here it's just minor. It's just a stratospheric haze. It's creating that. That's what people see, when the haze hits first and they see the lines across the sky and they think, oh my God, the planes created all those clouds. That's a science fantasy, what I call it. Doesn't add up. The debunkers are correct.
So what Bruce is saying is that it's the cloud's already there and the plane's going through.
Hmm.
And so when the plane goes through, does it do anything else to the cloud as far as make it more intense because of the
No,
lines? Because those
nope.
lines
It's just a
are.
line. It's just the moisture coming back out and then they eventually dissipate. But the clouds are already there. And if you look more carefully, when you see your so-called chemtrails, you'll see the clouds there. And I don't argue with people that, yes, they could make clouds in the troposphere, lower level. They could make clouds where there's moisture. Maybe they could do it. There's planes with big tankers in them. The pictures have been circulating, the same pictures. Everyone shows the same pictures. You know, I've been looking for 20 years all around the world. I haven't seen one yet, but I don't argue with people. Fine, they probably exist, but that's not what most of them are. Most of them are just commercial jets flying through an aerosol cloud, creating an aerosol trail. Get out your flight tracker and check it. And here's another way you can tell the height of a cloud, right? This is
Mhm.
a Maui sunset. We're looking across at the West Maui's. The sun is setting over there, right? And all the lower level clouds down below over the mountain have already gone dark on you. But these was a new phenomena not seen since the era of climate change. I had to make a new name for it. They call it noctoluminescent clouds. Clouds that light up in the sky after sunset. Noctoluminescent, lighting up when it's dark. Like all the gray clouds down here is the normal tropospheric clouds, but these up here are sitting at 40,000 feet. And the sun, even though it's already set, is lighting up the back side of it. And
Hmm.
so if you look across the sky, you'll see the sunset, you see the normal clouds already dark, but then you'll see these other clouds all the way across the sky lighting up from the underside, noctoluminescent clouds. It lets you know those are aerosol clouds. That lets you know the height of the cloud up there. Noctoluminescent clouds at sunset. Just happens at that moment after the sun is already set and all the normal clouds have already gone dark. And then
Hmm.
suddenly it lights up. People think, oh, it's beautiful, but you look at the color, this pinky type of,
Hmm.
metallic-y color, these aerosol sunsets, as I call them. Unfortunately, I know what they are, but they look beautiful to people who do it. So you can
Well,
decide,
I
was it
remember when I was in
engineered or was it
Hilo.
natural? I'll
I
let
was
you
in
guys
Hilo and
decide.
I saw a cloud. Actually, I wasn't the only one. It was this cloud was like purplish. It was
Uh-huh.
like purple and blue, and I think I actually have a picture of it somewhere. But I just remember hearing like I was next to some paddle friends and taking pictures of this cloud that was literally it was not white. It was like a purplish bluish cloud in Hilo on the Hilo side. This was a couple of years ago. Bruce, thank you so much for that. I do want to share weather modification patents because, when people, if you, this is a Google, this is weather devices and methods for influencing weather conditions, 687 patents found on Google. And these are, this first one, method of acting on the lower layers of the atmosphere. I mean, there's just so many. There's just so many. And granted, a patent doesn't mean that there's an actual apparatus that does it, but with hundreds of patents, as well as the first patent being in 1891 to cloud seed, they have been controlling our weather for a very, very long time. And why do you think they did this in Hawaii? There was a friend of mine who has a friend of mine in Hilo has a friend on Oahu whose house is gone. Their farm is literally destroyed because of this storm. And they live in one of the most amazing agriculture areas on Oahu. So why do you think they're doing this to the islands right now? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, the why word's the hardest one to understand what psychopaths do because we can't think like a psychopath. We got a
Mm-hmm.
compassionate heart and we feel, and we're not a psychopath. But imagine these farms that suddenly, you can buy them up for pennies on the dollar. When there's a big flood in the Midwest and big corporations come in, they buy up all the single family farms who are now bankrupt and they buy them for pennies on the dollar. If you're Monsanto, GMO seeds have aluminum resistance in the seeds. Why would they be aluminum resistant? Well, one of the main components of this is aluminum that's raining
Mm-hmm.
down on us. And then, with weather engineering, your plants that do fine, other things aren't going to thrive with aluminum.
Yeah. And the other
But
thing I want to share
that's just the
too.
beginning of it. If I really go down the rabbit hole, like, obviously is weaponization, uh, keeping everybody believing in the climate change agenda, because, oh my God, severe weather, it must be climate. Well, I'm looking at I save the screenshots, I look at each, severe weather pattern, and I try to reverse engineer it to see, okay, how do they do this one? Where the aerosols blown. What I can see, I can't see how a HAARP does. I can see it infer at how, electromagnetic waves are working on it and how they're doing it. But you can actually see on the satellite images the point source creation of clouds out of thin air. And
Yep.
that's pretty obvious.
Yep. Yeah,
Um,
very obvious.
but there's certain frequencies of light that should be hitting this planet right now that are being reflected by this stratospheric haze that's been created around the whole planet. And each year it's increasing a little more and a little more as they keep adding to it faster than it precipitates down.
Hmm.
And uh, what are those frequencies of light that shouldn't be hitting the planet? What's happening? What is that dumbing us down? Is that like some deep agenda to reflect certain high frequencies that should be hitting here, waking us up? Um, you
I was
know,
thinking just that. Yeah.
I mean, obviously the economic part, but disaster capitalism,
Hmm.
certain big companies are going to make a fortune off of, coming in and fixing things up.
Yep.
Anywhere with, we saw that in Lahaina, disaster capitalism, and the big money's made by the big boys and they throw out a little coins to everybody else, but, they walk off with the billions and
Well, and
suddenly,
also speaking of Lahaina, there was two billion dollars from the federal government and 872 million from Kamehameha schools that was supposed to go to Maui County to help rebuild Lahaina. There's still, I think, 341 patent permits that haven't been issued, and these people, these fire survivors, are supposed to get millions of dollars. And I've heard like one family has been supported in that way. But yeah, and then there's this right here, which is the emergency proclamations. The governor signed two emergency proclamations for this particular storm and suspended 42 laws for this storm. And so let me just kind of open this for a second here because it talks about this storm coming. It talks about there. Then he suspends suspension of laws right here, and it's appropriations to revert to a lot of it is about state procurement rules. Where's the money going? Suspending the laws of showing where the money is going, suspending the law that the money has to go back to the state if it's not utilized. A lot of laws that are like that. And also I have a impeachment inquiry around to the governor, to the legislative body about the governor about this because he's literally governing through emergency proclamations and booting out the legislative body that's overstepping his office. And like we have a emergency proclamation related to deer wildfires, the wildfire proclamation, 69 laws suspended. He has signed the wildfire proclamation 28 times and suspended 69 laws. So what's happening right now is the Hawaii governor is restructuring the constitutional governance um, in the state, and that's a big problem. These 42 laws that he suspended prior to this storm, it just kind of shows, that why are these storms being created? And then that amazing video that literally shows the storm being created from nothing, right outside the Hawaiian Islands. So it does feel like an attack. Somebody actually just texted me last night and was like, "Is this storm an attack on the people?" Because it feels like it. The locals, they're not used to this. This is not normal, you guys. This is not normal.
well, we can all feel in our now. We feel in the gut, something's wrong. This isn't right. This doesn't seem natural. We can feel it,
Hmm.
but actually getting the science behind it and saying, where is it actually coming from? How can we show how it's not real? That's the missing piece. Everybody can feel it. They know this isn't quite right. Suddenly the
Yeah.
storm comes out of nowhere, then suddenly it disappears. This is not how storms operate.
I want to show, I think it's this one. Let me see if this is the right one because I did send myself your your video that literally shows the storm coming out of nothing, coming out of nowhere. Let's think here. Hawaii tropical storm. Oh yeah, this is the Fosse one. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna just do a quick screen share on this one here.